Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Bald Explorer, all wrapped up nice and warm this evening for another Bald Explorers chat show here on the 1st of March, ladies and gentlemen, the 1st of March 2018. Oh, and are we going to have a good show today? Are we? Are we going to have a good show? I jolly well hope so. Because by rights, I shouldn't be here. I should be, well, I would be here, but I would be packing and getting ready for my trip up north to Shropshire. But that may not be happening because a number of things have been happening. Not least that my little school trip today was cancelled, and here I am with you this lovely evening. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it is World Book Day today, World Book Day, and we may well talk about that. I want to find out what your favourite book is. What book are you reading currently, and what would you like to be reading in the future? So it is World Book Day today. Unfortunately, the children that I was supposed to see today, their school was shut, and the event was closed because it is so cold. It's so cold I got my woolly hat on, ladies and gentlemen, and a scarf, which I shall now discard because it all looks very silly. But in order to keep myself nice and warm, I have got my special mug. Recognise that little dude on there? Yeah, this is from the old Vobes show days. Oh, nice. Cheers, everyone. That's delicious. So, not only are we going to talk about that, we might be talking a little bit about the world of the self-employed, seeing as today's cancellation has affected me. I'd be interested to know how many of you out there are self-employed, and what benefits there are, and what are the what are the cons? What are the considerations to think about if you happen to be employing yourself? What else have we got? Oh, we got our list of places to go that we didn't look at. I've got a few suggestions from your very good selves. So we will be having a look at those, and there's some pictures and information and all that kind of malarkey. I want to talk a little bit about wood because there's a woodland theme currently in our walks videos. Don't know if you've noticed that. We've had the lovely Julia. Everyone's in love with Julia. She's been gallivanting around Kingley Vale with me. And I want to say a big hello to my fantastic new patrons. Yes, they're new patrons who signed up in the last couple of days, and in fact I shall do that now before I forget. They may not be here, which would be a bit of a shame, but if they're not, well, anyway, here they are. Elaine, Stephen, Kevin and Cynthia. You all signed up over the last couple of days, and you've pledged a huge amount of your hard-earned money to the Vobie One-Eyed Kenobi, which is absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much. It means that I will be able to get out, not when it's really cold and wet and horrible and snowy, but when it lightens up a little bit, we can get those marvellous walks out there and do some more. But before we go any further, let's just have a look to make sure that we are on and that there are people out there and that you can hear me and all that sort of stuff. So we've got David, who's out there. He says, currently reading 12 Rules of Life by Jordan Peterson. Yes, I wouldn't mind getting my hands on that book. I've been following the likes of Jordan Peterson for some time. I absolutely loved the crushing interview with Kathy Newman. I had to introduce my sister to that the other day, and she thought it was very, very cringe-worthy. It was dreadful. I saw that Kathy Newman was actually interviewing Max Mosley the other day, and while you may not agree with everything that he does, again, it was another sort of cringy interview. I thought, well, she's clearly lost it. Martin Snow has joined, so has David Young, Chrissy Richardson, Chrissy Watkins, two couplers of Chrissys there, Paul, Phil, Rob, Kevin. Hello, Kevin. Thank you very much for your patronage. I've got you in there. And Julia, the lovely Julia. We all love Julia now. Everybody's madly and passionately in love with Julia, and we want to see more. And in fact, on that note, I am trying to arrange it so that maybe next Wednesday, Julia will be here next to me. I should be so lucky, here in the studio, and that would be absolutely wonderful. Philip has arrived, Steve, Elizabeth, and many more to arrive as well, no doubt. They're all late to the party, which is a bit of a shame. So I'm just having a quick cup of coffee as we do the show, in my special mug here, which came around as a result of doing the Vobes show. I've had that mug probably, and the mug shot on it, I've probably had that for 10 years or more. Anyway, so let's crack on with the show. What are we going to do first? It's always quite good. Self-employment. Let's deal with that, because you see, it was World Book Day today. By the way, keep all your suggestions of books and your favourite books and what you're reading. It would be very interesting to know that. I was supposed to be working today at a school in West London, and it was cancelled because of the snow. I was slightly worried about doing the journey myself, because who wants to be trapped in a car in the snow? And a lot of people have been. It's not much fun. But more than that, these poor kids, it's World Book Day. They dress up in Harry Potter outfits, they dress up in Roald Dahl characters, they dress up in all sorts of wacky and crazy things, and their parents, it's a right stressful time for the parents, believe me you, or believe you me, whichever way round you wish it. And it's a nightmare, and a school, of course, doesn't want to cancel such an event such as it is. But when the weather means that you have to, because they'll be freezing all their little kneecaps off, then that's what happens. But those people who are employed on a freelance basis, like, say, moi, it's a bit of a deal, because it's very difficult, it's very awkward sometimes to sort of go, well, I've got a cancellation fee, you know, if you don't book me, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. Not that I really talk to them like that. So I don't really have a cancellation fee, because I feel it's kind of not their fault. Because of the weather, and also the likelihood is that they'll rearrange it. It's just, you know, it's very difficult if you're self-employed and you're relying on the money. So I would be interested to know who else is self-employed, and what are the perks, and what are the pros and what are the cons, because sometimes when these things cancel, you don't get paid. You just don't get paid, and really and truly, there's nothing you can do about it. But also, what else is there? Well, for example, you don't automatically get put onto a pension scheme. Now, I don't actually, and I shouldn't really admit this, but I don't have a pension. So when I get to 65 or 68 or 69 or 110 or whenever the age is by the time I reach it, the state pension won't be worth the paper it's written on, no doubt, and I will just be getting nothing. So that's why I've got 3 children. That's exactly why I've got 3 children, and I'm hoping that one of them at least will be reasonably successful, that they can look after their dear old dad. Of course, they may not want to look after their dear old dad, and then no doubt I'll be shoved out into the snowdrift to sort of pass away as some poor bald-headed beggar that once had a career that never really got off the ground, but once had something, and is now just that sort of annoying man in the corner talking to a broomstick that he seems to think is a microphone, which would be a bit weird. And he takes that broomstick around with him saying, "Hello, I'm Richard Vobes, and I'm on another walk," which would be a bit daft. You don't get days off if you're self-employed. Well, not paydays. You don't get sick pay. You know, if you're like, oh, I feel a bit ill, I can't come today, love, I'm feeling a bit ill. You don't get any of that. You don't have any of those benefits. That's terrible. If you're not ill, I remember once when I used to do the old robotics, and I used to do all this beep, beep, zzz, zzz. Very difficult to do that sitting down, by the way. But I used to be a human robot and do all this sort of nonsense. Anyway, I remember I had the squits very badly. Very bad. I had terrible time with pain. Now, I don't sort of eat takeaway curries and all those things that might and drink loads of beer and all those things that might make you have all of that stuff, because I need to be fit and well to go and do the job, because I'm self-employed. So one day I was feeling absolutely rough, and I could barely walk anywhere without having to run to the little boys' room. And I was supposed to be in a place in Basildon in Essex, at of all places, a shopping centre, dressed up as a robot with a silver face and this big costume on, entertaining the children. And when I say entertaining the children, I really mean being a stool pigeon, where they come up to you and poke you and kick you and try and make you sort of smile or something. But that's another story. And I knew that I couldn't even make the journey, let alone anything else. And I said to them, I rang up the agent and I said, look, I'm not very well. And they said, oh, blimey, this is no good. You know, because entertainers, basically, you never take a day off. You don't take a day off because people have booked you. They're expecting you to turn up. There's people waiting for you to come on. And you can't do it. You're letting everything down. But I had these dreadful squits. Like, this is the one time I took a day off. The one time. And I said, look, I'll come. And I'll dress up as a robot, and I'll stand in your shopping centre, and I'll move around like this. But if it starts to get a little bit smelly, and a little bit of a brown sludge, shall we say, is left as I move around, I said, I cannot be held responsible. I said, I'm absolutely, really would never do this. And they said, no, that's fine. Okay. If it's really that ill, then don't. But of course you don't get paid. You don't get paid. No, you don't get paid. And if you're on good money, that could be, you know, your food money for the week. So there's no excuses. There's absolutely no excuses. So I'm interested. Anybody out there who's self-employed? Kevin Hall says, I'm self-employed, Richard, 35 years, counting mainly as a painter and decorator. So he'll know what it's like. The painters and decorators, of course, you know, they're a bit like roofers, aren't they? Roofers do stuff on the outside when it's sunny, and then they do stuff on the inside when it's wet. And then just as they opened up your roof to repair it, of course, it starts to rain, so they'll go and do another job 200 yards down the road, and you don't see them for weeks. But not Kevin at all. He's not like that. Brendan Pott says you're responsible for your own affairs too. Oh, hello. Oh, yes, I'm well responsible for my affairs, I can tell you. But don't say anything to Harriet, for Gord's sake. Oh, I see what you mean. Financial affairs. Oh, well, of course, you've got to put in your tax thing at the end of the day. Now, of course, there are perks. There are perks, but I don't want to reveal them all online because I may have a knock at the door by the, well, you know who they might be. So that would be rather dreadful. But there are, I mean, you can sort, one of the things that people say is, oh, well, if you're self-employed, you can choose to work when you want to. Right, okay. Yeah, you can choose. So somebody will ring you up and they'll say, hello, Richard, are you free on the 3rd of March to come and do something? You go, oh, the 3rd of March, that's my dad's funeral. Well, we're going to pay you this much money and we've got all this. Oh, yes, okay, I'll do it. Because you know you've got to take the work. You just have to take the work. Yes, I'll do it. And then the missus or whoever is saying, oh, you hope you haven't taken a job on the 3rd. That we're going to a wedding on that day. We can't possibly do that. You mustn't take a job on that. No, go and tell them not to. Oh, I daren't. I can't ring them back. Especially if you're an entertainer and you ring up your agent and you say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not available that day. They said, well, you're never available, are you? Well, no, it's just that day. My wife wants to go to a wedding. It's hers, actually. We were going to get married and everything. Oh, well, if you can't do that, we'll find somebody else. And the trouble is they do find somebody else and then they don't ring you again. And if you're waiting for the phone call it's a nightmare. It really is a nightmare. John Turner says, hello, Richard. Hello, John. My dad, says Brendan, is self-employed. I work with him sometimes and I know some things. Oh, well, I bet you do. Alex Whitlock says, more self-unemployed. Yes, that is that. At this time, it can be very much like that. And, of course, self-employment now has got a bit of a bad name. Especially, the government believe, I think, that there are far too many self-employed people because of these weird things like Uber drivers and the gig economy. Now, I don't know if the gig economy is working for you, but I know that there are places now where you can go and do jobs for $5. There's a place called Fiverr.com. Fiverr, F-I-V-R. It's like Flickr, but they miss out the E. One of these new fangled crazy ways of doing things. And you can go on there and you can say, oh, I'll do a voiceover for you, or I'll edit a video for you, or I'll come and do some mime for you for $5. What is that in English money? About £4, is it? About £4? I wouldn't get out of bed for £4. I wouldn't get out of bed. Not in this temperature. Blimey, please. So I don't understand it. And people, of course, are doing these things. And it seems to me to be the race to the bottom. I don't know about you, but so I was going to do some voiceover work because I can do voiceover work. In the beginning, there was the Word, and the Word was cut. That's a little quote there from the Burkus Way, actually. But yes, I could do voiceovers and things, and I went on this website to have a look, and there were many people on there, and they were doing voiceovers for a fiver, for $5. $5, ladies and gentlemen, $5. I just thought, blimey. You know, by the time you've switched on all the equipment and warmed everything up, you've probably used $5 of electricity. So, yes, I'm not terribly au fait with all of that, but I'd be interested in your thoughts on that. Do keep them coming in. And if you're watching this on after the Facebook Live, if you're watching on the YouTube, then don't forget you can comment, and I do go back and I do look at them, and I try and comment on every comment. Not on Facebook, it's very difficult because you're all, you know, typing and I'm talking, so that's very difficult, but I try to read as much as I can. Debbie Martin says, I'm a self-employed dog walker, which is fantastic. What a brilliant job to do, to be out there on the outdoors with a whole load of huskies taking you across the snow. It must be lovely at the moment, of course. Elizabeth Housden says, I'm self-employed actress and writer. There you are, you see. And it's good if you can get the work, but sometimes when the work is thin, the nails are thin too, and so's the ends of the fingers. So that's quite interesting. Norris says, still no Martin Snow. Is he snowed in? He nearly came. Martin very nearly came on the show this evening. He said, shall I come to the show? And I said, you're very welcome. And he said, I might just stay in. It's a bit cold, and he knows how shivery I get here. So, but we are hoping to get him in very soon, so don't panic. We will have more of Snow, Martin Snow. Just look out your window and you'll see him lying there across the grass and the pavements and everywhere. I mean, we're in Snowdonia, in fact. Well, not really Snowdonia, but you know what I mean. Right, okay, let's move on and crack on with some other stuff, because otherwise we just won't get it all done. So, yeah, let's have a look at the places that we're going to, where you've suggested... Sorry, where... you're talking over the music then. Go to some of the places that you suggested that I go to, shall we? So I've got some interesting places here to have a look at. We talked about Wiggenholt yesterday, didn't we? Wiggenholt. Here's the church. Do you remember? Here's the church. Here's the steeple. Open the doors, and there's all the people. And so that's nice, and I'm going to try and look that up. It's not too far away, but there are more places that we can visit. Of course, coming up very soon, as soon as we get rid of the snow, there's Bluebells. Now, recently went with lovely Ed Warren, who took me out to the fantastic, where was it, Diddlesfold or somewhere? Near North Chapel anyway, and we looked at all the lovely snowdrops. But where do you suppose is the best place to go and see Bluebells? I need some advice on that, please. That would be absolutely fantastic. If you know, send me a message. Fine. Then there's people have suggested I go here, which is the Fernhurst Furnace. Now, I found some quick pictures on Fernhurst Furnace, as you can see, but actually I have no idea what it is I'm looking at, which obviously I need to do the research and then go and find out more about it and go and visit, which sounds like a good idea. But again, I'm waiting for the snow to disappear, which would be rather nice. Then, how about some follies? Follies are lovely. I do like follies. This is the Sugarloaf, and this folly is there to look like the steeple of Dallington Church. Dallington Church is in East Sussex, and there was Mad Jack Fuller, who was a bit of a nutter, and he made a wager to say that he reckoned that he could see the spire of Dallington Church from his house, from his nice stately house. But actually he couldn't. He couldn't see it. It was no there, and it was like, oh, I don't want to lose this wager. He had the wager with I think it was with a rector of another church. Anyway, so what he did was very slyly, he got all his men together. Here, boys, come here. I don't want to lose no money. So what we're going to do... I can't do that for very long. That's a terrible, grotty old voice that's making my throat go funny. Yeah, well, what we're going to do, you're going to nip down the land there a bit, and I want you to build this fake spire. So they built this fake spire so that he could then bring this bloke up to his house and look out the window and say, "Oh, there you are, look, it's Dallington Church. I believe I win the wager. Thank you. 500 guineas. Lovely. That's just to pay for the folly." But it's known as the sugar loaf because, have another look at it, it's how sugar used to be kept and stored, it used to be kept. Sugar used to be in conical shapes like that. I don't know why. I don't know whether it's the easiest way that they made them when they got the sugar out of the sugar beet, but that's what they did, and so that's what it was named as. So, and I'm not lying, Mrs. No thing. Also, here, this is Tilgate. If I remember rightly, this is Tilgate Park, and I have been asked to go with, and I know I'm going to get this wrong, Liz. It's Liz B. Well Walkers or something, and I haven't got the thing in front of me. But she runs, this lovely lady called Liz runs a very nice getting well, keeping fitness outfit with very nice people, of course. And she said it'd be lovely to find out more information historically about Tilgate Park, because she walks them all around the Tilgate Park in the summer days and in the spring. She keeps them fit by doing that. Wellness, that's it. Lisby Wellness, I think it's called. And she said it would be great if you came along and made a video and told us a little bit about the history, and everybody would love it and it would be great. And they're all, you know, most of them, I think they're all women, and they're all very attractive women. So that's very, no, like, because you're not allowed to say that now. You're not allowed to say that because that, of course, is a little bit sexist and stuff. But, you know, maybe they're all attractive men dressed up as women. Who knows? Anyway, I'm not going to dig in myself into any more holes. But that's one of the places. Another interesting place that I have been to many, many years ago, and I haven't been back. And this is not really a representative photo of it, actually, but this is a train station, because I just wanted to remind everybody that soon, Dumpman, I know it's a strange name, but Dumpman and I are going to go on the hunt for some more disused railways, which is going to be fantastic. But this one, do you know where that is? I'll tell you. That's at Slinfold. Slinfold is a lovely little village. I haven't been there for donkey's years since I last lived in Horsham in West Sussex, and I want to go round and make a video of that and see if I can find the Slinfold railway station and see what situation it's in. Maybe Dumpman will know, and maybe he can take me to it, which would be all very good. And here, now, this is one for Brendan, because Brendan, I don't know if you've noticed in the Bald Explorer group, by the way, if you're not a member of the Bald Explorer group, suggest you join it, because you'll get the alerts of everything that happens. Brendan can tell us where this windmill is, because he seems to know every windmill in Sussex, which is fantastic. And Brendan is going to go for a walk with me sometime in March, or when it warms up a bit. It'll be very nice. I'm looking forward to it. And I've just lost the page now. Hang on a minute. So Brendan, do you know where that is? You must know where that is. That's Oldlands Mill. Oldlands Mill. And can you tell me where Oldlands Mill is? Here's another picture of Oldlands Mill. It's very nice. It's a very nice, and you can go there. And I must go and visit one of these mills on open day. I haven't had a chance yet, because they tend not to open until the spring. When do they open? What, April, May time? Till about October time. So I want to go and actually go inside and get a working look at a mill like that, which would be fantastic. I've been asked to go here. This is a place called Chailey, and this is in Sussex, and it's a lovely looking village from this old vintage photo postcard that I've got. So I'm looking forward to doing that. Where else have we got here on my list of exciting places? Oh yeah, another place to take the lovely Julia, any excuse, to get her back on the screen. And this is at Crowhurst. It's the old yew tree with a door. Now, I know lots of people are falling in love with yew trees. And they are these amazing sort of things. And of course, it's not just yew trees, there's also other trees that are big, but that one's in Crowhurst. It's about an hour or so from me, and I think that would be Julia and I would make a great trip up there and have a look, and maybe take a nice pot of tea. And I know Julia doesn't like normal cups of tea. She's got her own special sort of tea. She's a specialty. She is a special case. And I mean that in the nicest possible way. So there we are. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, finally, I have also had this place being suggested to me. This is in Lancashire. Now, fortunately, Harriet's father lives in Lancashire, and I hope this isn't too far away from him. This is called the hang on a minute, I've lost the hang on a minute, what's it called? The well, sometimes they call it the Jubilee Tower, but it's also the I think it's Derwent Tower, and that's it's built as a in the year of the Jubilee for Queen Victoria. Get my facts right, Vobes. Queen Victoria's presumably her silver jubilee or a diamond jubilee, one of those jubilees. It's very easy to get them mixed up because she lived so long. But there we are. So that's my wonderful list of places, and I hope we can add to it and have more places to go to, which will be great. So let's see what's going on in the old chat room and see how well behaved you are. Let's see it. Chrissy Richardson said there's a wonderful folly on top of Leith Hill in Cold Harbour in Surrey. Is that the tower on Leith Hill? I have been there. That's very nice. She says apparently there's a man buried head down below it. That's very nice. A bit like the Mad Miller on the hill, you know, whatever it's called. Now the Cornetto, says Alex. I don't know what that's about. Lindsay Kerr has arrived. Hello, Lindsay Kerr. Lovely to see you. Thank you very much for popping in. Alex says it's spring now. Julia says a Portal U. She can't wait. Yes, I think what's going to happen is she'll dump me in there, send me off to Neverland, and then she's going to come over and take over the show. I think that's exactly what's happening. She's giving us a big laugh there. And, OK, that looks interesting, says Brendan Potts. And Jake says Leith Hill. All a bit Starsky and Hutch. I guess Carol's talking about the music. Yeah, this is 1970s nonsense. I'm sorry about that. You just have to put up with it. OK, we'll move on now to some other things. So we'll just mention this before we get on there. It's always good just to do this. We've had some lovely new patrons, by the way. Thank you very much for signing up. That's great. You can become a patron of Vobes, which is a very easy thing to do. You just check out baldexplorer.com and you get The Naked Englishman, which is a podcast about the behind the scenes of my life. You'll get the videos beforehand, and you're actually helping to put petrol in the car to take myself and whoever else it is that I'm going to walk with out on a lovely little trip. And in tomorrow's show, we've got Kiln Wood. I go and visit Kiln Wood near Blackboys in East Sussex. I haven't done much in East Sussex. I want to go into East Sussex a bit more. Going up to Shropshire, I hope, if the weather is kind to me, and going to get some more up there. But tomorrow is Kiln Wood, and I get a bit of a surprise in Kiln Wood, but I don't want to ruin the surprise this evening. Now, talking of wood, because we've got this sort of woodland theme, and this is, I suppose, to sort of do a little bit of heritagey stuff and history and stuff. I thought I'd talk about, I've been reading, I didn't bring it in. Oh, books. Yes, books. I've been reading a fantastic book, seeing as it's World Book Day, called Woodlands by Oliver Rackman. And this is like the definitive Bible, if you like, to the history of woodlands. It's absolutely fascinating. And I was reading a little bit this morning as I was wrapped up in a blanket with my woolly hat and scarf and various layers on, and I was reading about the fact that, and this took me by surprise, the spoked wheel. Now, you know what a spoke wheel is. I'm not talking about on your bicycle, but I'm talking about a spoke wheel that you might have had on a cart, okay? The spoke wheel was invented back in the times of the Neolithic people. And it was probably at the height of their development when this came about. They also invented, and then we subsequently lost, apparently, something called a shrunk-fitted iron tyre. Now, I know you want to know what a shrunk-fitted iron tyre, so of course I went away to find a picture of one. Here's a picture. Now, this is a much more modern sort of carriage. But if you look on the outer rim, that is an iron tyre. It's not a rubber tyre like you normally get, on a bicycle. That is made of iron. It's heated up, and then as it cools, I believe it shrinks onto the wheel. But you go back sort of 3,000 to 5,000 years, and it's believed, Oliver Rackman says, that they had in the Iron Age, no, not in the Neolithic, in the Iron Age, they had come up with the shrunk fitted iron tyre. And then it got lost. And it wasn't reinvented until, I think, the 17th century. So there was, like, you know, a massive amount of time before it was reinvented. And I was just staggered. That was just one of those things that staggered me. So a little bit of history there. Also, stuff made from wood, because wood is such an important thing. Wooden cups known as, now I'm not sure if I've got the pronunciation of this right, mazers or mazers, were made in their million, turned on a lathe back in the Anglo-Saxon times and in the medieval England. And I know you want to know what a mazer looks like, so we don't know. It's a wooden cup. Here it is. It's a wooden cup, and there were millions of them, apparently. Millions of these things were made. Not very many of them survived, but there's a few of them. And apparently in Coppergate in York, which is a street, Coppergate is Cuppergate, really. Cups and cup makers lived there. And what they do, according to this little bit of notage that I've written down, it's made by splitting a short log into 4 billets. And then these cups are made on a lathe and they're gouged out. Very so clever. And of course, woodmen who run these courses in the woods where they do it all by hand, they still do this sort of stuff. So it's absolutely fantastic. And this was probably, it says, probably one of the most commonest products that a turner's art. They also made, of course, tool handles. They made chair legs, reels, all sorts of other bits, you know, anything round and spindly. So that was that. There's more on that, but I just don't want to bore you about it. We could talk about the wood's bark. No, not that kind of bark, thank you. That's the dog at the bottom. No, the bark. The bark, of course, of oak trees, very, very important, because it was used for tanning. And tanning was used in the process of making leather. The hide of a cow or a pig or some animal. You needed the tannin from like an oak, the bark of the oak. And the oak had loads of it. And it was in quite big demand. And then in the 17th century, it was in huge demand. In fact, the bark of the oak tree was in more demand than the oak tree itself was in demand for shipbuilding and house building. Because think of the army and the navy and all the things that they needed leather for. The bark was much more in demand. Fascinating wood facts. And I go into Kilnwood tomorrow, so that's that sort of very small little link, and I try to link it as best I can. So there we go. Anyway, so that's that. Let's see what you're doing. Let's see what you're doing in the chat room. I want your favourite books. What is your favourite book? Jake says go to a castle in Surrey. Okay, well I would. I mean, Guildford's got a castle, that's in Surrey. Have you got any suggestions? Jane says the wetlands at Arundel. Yes, that would be a good one, definitely. Height of the Neolithic era, not difficult. They were all very small, says Elizabeth. Yeah, we have got a lot bigger and fatter, haven't we, since the Neolithic period? But you think what they did back in the Neolithic times, they cleared most of the woodland that you see that isn't there today. In other words, once we were covered in woodland all over the place. And it was really thanks to the Neolithic man that we've actually now got space to put towns and villages in, because they did most of the clearing. A lot of people think that it was the Romans or the Anglo-Saxons and in that sort of period. But no, it was cleared well before the Romans ever set foot in Britain. Little factoid there for you. Pee and poo, also very important in tanning. Very true. Very smelly places, tanners, and that's why they're very often down by water, because they need a lot of water, and away from the town centre. Henfield is a nice example where there is the tan yard, or the tan field, and there is a nice little lake there, and it's called, I think, Tan Lane and things like that. Often the tanneries were moved because people couldn't stand the noisome smells. so terrible. My favourite book, says James Hart, is a book of recent times, is Nomad by Alan Partridge. The audiobook is hilarious and it's read by the man himself. Knowing me, knowing you. Rihanna's fave book, Sapphire Battersea by Jacqueline Wilson. Of course, she writes lots of children's books, doesn't she? So there you go, which is fantastic. Anything by Ben Elton, says Jason. And anything by Mark Billingham. Now, I'll tell you what my favourite book is. My favourite book is a book I read many, many years ago. It's a very unknown book. It's an obscure book, but I urge you to go and hunt it out. If it's still in print, you probably have to get a second-hand copy of it. By the way, my coffee has gone completely freezing cold. That is because it is so cold in here. My favourite book of all time is nothing famous, nothing that you know, and it's a very sort of nothing story, really, but I love it. It's called London Belongs to Me by a man called Norman Collins, and it's hilarious. It's a very sort, how do you explain it? Not a lot happens in this book. It's about life. It's about Londoners who live in the same house on an ordinary street, and back in the it's just after the war, I think. I think it's just after the war or just before the war. I think it's just before the war, actually, and the war is coming. But that doesn't play a huge amount in it. It's about the lives of these people, and it is a hoot. A film was made, London Belongs to Me, and you can see it on YouTube. And actually, it's slightly shorter than the book. It's very true to the book. It's one of those films that is actually very true to the book. Now, it's slow. It's slow, and it talks about people getting on buses and not having enough money for the bus, and collecting the coupons for this, and having the teapot up on the shelf and the clock, and I don't know. It's this very curious window, and I think it's more interesting now looking back at life at that period of time, and it's done in a very interesting way. I just can't explain it. I just find the book fascinating, but the film is equally fascinating, and it stars wonderful, lovely Alistair Sim. If you don't know who Alistair Sim is, you obviously are far too young to appreciate it, and you won't like the book. But Alistair Sim plays I forget his name, and it's just a brilliant. I love it. I haven't read it for a while, and I've read a number of books by Norman Collins. He's a fascinating writer. He used to work at the BBC, and he used to sort of organise radio, the Light programme. I think he was quite big, and he was quite a prolific writer. And it's just, I wouldn't say it was brilliantly written as in literature wise. But his studies of people, I just think it's just lovely. Anyway, so that's my favourite book, London Belongs to Me. It's freezing cold all of a sudden. I'm just wondering if the gas has just died in that bottle over there. But anyway, there we go. Has anybody heard of it? Elizabeth says, my favourite always will be the complete works of Shakespeare. I'm afraid Shakespeare just leaves me absolutely stone cold. I don't really understand it, don't understand the language, and I guess, and she said, the reason that you don't understand it is because you've never been taught it properly. And that's true, but it seems a shame that you need to be taught it. I want to be able to pick up a book and sort of find myself brought into it without having to be taught what it all means. But anyway, Brendan Potts says, I'm into World War II warships, particularly the Japanese Navy, so I read a lot of books on those. That's fascinating. I've been reading some stuff about the Battle of Britain and the Blitz, because 1940 commemorations are coming up. 2020, I imagine, 80 years since then. So that's all quite interesting. Timothy Wareham says, not sure if you've done some already, but geology walks would be good. It would be great to have somebody who knows a little bit about geology to take me on them and give me the once up. So if that's you, Timothy, that would be fantastic. Such as the South and North Downs and how they were formed. So yeah, I would like to do that, because I'm trying to identify trees. Then there's wildflowers, so that when you're out you can talk about that. But also the geology of the place, like up just north of where I am in Worthing, down we've got obviously the South Downs, and you've got the green sand around Washington and Warren Hill and all around there, and some of the sunken lanes up actually where Elizabeth Houston is, the green sand. That's fascinating. So I'd love to know about the shifts and stuff. And when I go to Shropshire, of course, you've got all that Precambrian rock up there. It's much harder. It's volcanic rock, basically. And unlike the South Downs, where the water just sprinkles through because it's like a sponge, up there the water hits the rock and just slides down into little gullies and rivulets, lovely little rivulets, and you've got them coming down the thing. So that's all very exciting. So what else? I'd love to, if you pay my flights. I live in the US now. I can barely put the petrol into my car, young Timothy, but I will do what I can. I'll find somebody who knows a bit about the geology of the land, or I'll just have to get another book and read up on it and take you on a stroll and tell you as much as I can. And that's about all I can do. We're running over time as ever, so I think it's time to go. I'm not going up to Shrewsbury tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. You'll be sad to know. I'm not going up there because the weather is bleak. I'm going to go up on Saturday. Harriet is in Dubai, sitting in the sunshine, but she is going to be leaving and coming back here, and I think she's going to try and risk it when she gets into Heathrow at about 6 o'clock tomorrow evening and drive up north to Shropshire. And I've said, don't. Get into a hotel, come south, come to my place, to go and stay with your sister, do something, but don't risk it. The roads are going to be a nightmare on a Friday, but she's that stubborn. But I'm not going up there because I'm that stubborn too. I'm going to go up on Saturday if the weather is good. So what was the point of saying that? So that, of course, there's going to be a show tomorrow. There'll be another show to end the week tomorrow. If you would like one, that would be the thing. And then I will be away and we'll do some shows from Shropshire. Then I'm back on Wednesday. I shall be doing my patron of reading at the school on Wednesday, which will be great. And I'm hoping, if everything goes well and to plan, that the lovely Julia will be here. I've been itching to get her into the studio to do a live show. She's a star on the videos, and we've got some more places to go, so that will be great. And of course I want more and more of you lovely viewers to come walking with me, which would be terrific too. So anyway, that's about it for now. I think I better disappear. Otherwise you'll have too much of me, and too much of a good thing will ruin your appetite. So, ladies and gentlemen, all that remains me is to thank you very much for coming along. Don't forget, if you want to support me, you can. It would be lovely if you did. It all helps. Put petrol in the car, makes me go further afield. It even makes me afford to buy a cup of coffee for the guests when they arrive. So check out boldexplorer.com and become a patron of Vobes. Those of you who've had the Naked Englishman podcast, let everybody else know what it's like. And in the meantime, wrap up warm, because by golly, it is cold. It's been so lovely to see you all. Thank you so much. And I will see you tomorrow, same time, same place. Until then, goodbye, goodbye, goodbye.